What's going on, everybody? I just wanted to touch base in this video about a few little thoughts and things. I recently reached out to the patrons and just kind of asked for their thoughts on a few topics around a few animals and things going on around here. I was thinking about doing some animal Tetris, moving a few bits and pieces and such, and yeah, it was a good thing to do, I think, because it kind of gave me some other people's point of view, especially like outsider point of view. I think it's always really important to kind of have. It was really, really good. I actually enjoyed some private conversations and stuff with some of the patrons. You know, there was some good public sort of comments on that platform and things, which of course, you know, if you're interested, go join up there. You'll be able to see the video that I kind of put out, as well as plenty of other videos. That being said, you know, there's a few things there that I kind of wanted to address. I think I finally kind of come to a decision in my head about what I want to do as far as this channel and things going forward. You see I'm hanging out with my main man Sonic here. He's my beautiful central bearded dragon. Yeah, there's some interesting topics raised, and one of the things that was kind of brought up was, you know, potentially kind of just moving straight into monitors. You know, like monitors, I love monitors. It's no lie, right? Like I got my Gill and I army per se. You know, I've got my Kimbo's got my Tristus, and he was kind of like suggesting that, hey, maybe because you do really well with them and, you know, budgets are tight and stuff like that, maybe you could look into breeding a few more monitors. Nothing wrong with that. Something I've definitely considered in the past, you know, but one of the suggestions was like, maybe we look at moving on Billy and Sonic and Acorn and stuff like that. And for me, whilst I could look at that and go, hey, yeah, potentially there's like a monetary value of moving on those animals and looking into breeding further and, you know, getting a few more species and stuff like that. No argument of the fact money would help, great. But in the same time, I've got some family members here, you know, like Sonic's been with me for 11 odd years. He's been part of the family for gosh knows how long. And, you know, same as Billy. Billy's with me for 7+ years now or something like that. Acorn's pretty fresh, but they all have their merits. They take up a lot of space, but they have their merits. For example, Sonic here, him and my son have become really chummy, and for me, watching my 2-year-old boy being able to interact with Sonic and kind of enjoy his present, like Finnan always comes in here and goes, oh, pat, you know, like pat Sonic sort of thing, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I want to encourage that. For me, if I had some monitors in here, we all know monitors, depending on the animal, can be a little bit standoffish, can be a little bit skittish, maybe not so hand-friendly type stuff. So for me, having Sonic, for example, really good for bringing my boy into it. And that same thing goes on for Acorn too, you know, like Acorn, for example, he loves coming in here and sharing a couple of blueberries here and there or some strawberries or something like that with Acorn. So, you know, that's kind of developing. Acorn's finally coming out of his shell, which is another big reason. I had considered moving Acorn on for a while, and that's no lie. But that being said, he's come out of his shell hardcore. He's front and center now, comes up to the glass, wants scratches, like day and night, different animal. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I've wanted to shingle back for that long, and now that he's finally giving me that sort of interaction, I think the wait for it has been the reward. Should I be moving the frogs inside? Like, that was one of my kind of concerns, to potentially play a bit of animal Tetris. You know, potentially that would be not a horrible idea just because of the fact that, you know, summers get warm, etc. I've been doing some thinking on it, and to be honest, I don't think where the frogs are is actually going to be an issue, at least not in my eyes just yet. Like, I was trying to kind of like relay it to keeping my frogs in the reptile shed that I had them in previously in the garage, you know, down in my other place, and how hot that garage got. Man, that got hot, really, really hot, and there was like no saving grace from that whatsoever. So I might look at kind of like moving on some less tropical species potentially, and maybe just kind of focus on tropical species in the kind of thought process that during winter I can always heat them. During summer, they can kind of handle that warmer temperature a little bit. Like, potentially that's kind of something that we could consider down the line. You know, I was really trying to think about it, like in the garage sense. Like, that garage used to honestly, like, if it was 42 degrees outside, it was as hot, if not hotter, inside that garage. And, you know, short stints of time, right? But, you know, those frogs did handle it. Now, that garage was in full sun, day in, day out. Like, there was no second story on top of that garage. It was like roof space, garage, you're copping the sun. This little shed, yeah, it's tiny, but it does not get any sun at all any time of the year. I think middle of winter it might get a lick of sun just because the sun's lower. I'm not worried about it in winter, honestly. I'm not. Because of where I am in the apartment block, it just gets shaded out by everything else at the moment. So I'm really not that concerned about that. It was more just like the ambient temperature. But there's a few other things we can potentially do to mitigate that. I've got PC fans that I could probably hook up to the vents on the garage and kind of have air in, air out, as well as like other fans inside of the garage itself. And yeah, like there's things like that that I could probably look at doing. Probably after actually filming this video, I might even go and film another video because I think I'm going to just rip the Mist King system out of this room here. I don't use it a lot, and it's not hard to kind of hand mist the animals that I want to mist in here. I'm always in here. So potentially I might look at doing that for the frog's sake out there, just to kind of give them a little bit more of a chance to cool down and such. And not only that, I mean, that's them, right? Like frogs need to get a little bit more humid, a little bit more moist. It's probably a better thing for frogs to have compared to the reptiles, for example, and I can just focus on hand misting inside. Before I kind of keep talking about extra updates and stuff like that too, I will actually quickly mention that goannas seem to be going off early this year, or early enough for me anyway. This female here, pretty dang sure she's holding eggs. She's out basking non-stop. That belly's getting nice and fat. Right now I have 1 Gillens that's actually inside of that nest box. I've seen a couple of eggs poking out of her rear end this morning, and I've got another female nesting up in there at the moment. There's already been 1 clutch from this trio up here, so it looks like we're in full swing. Not only that, the Kimbos this morning, they were getting fully into it, so there's a lot of mating action happening up there. I do actually need to replace the LED in this tank too, so that's something that I have to kind of get to in the near future. That being said, something else we talked about was the water dragons. Now, my overall plan with the water dragons is I really, really dig water dragons. That's been something that's been on the cards for a little while now. And now these guys are kind of growing up a bit, starting to get a bit of size on them. I actually want to get them out into sunshine this summer. So I actually think that I'm going to make some alterations to the pit outside, and they'll probably go out into there. That being said, there was also some bad news that came with that last patron only video. So if you did want to catch that, you can go back and go to that. I don't really want to talk about it. It was a bit depressing. So yeah, if you want to go catch that, you'll have to join up with the bug bill tier. So that being said, yeah, water dragons' plan is to actually get them outside this summer. That'll probably be in the not so distant future. I think that's going to be one of my first sort of like targets that I want to hit with things that I want to do around here, is to try to get them out. I want to free up this space so I can just walk to the door and open up the window and stuff a lot easier. It just makes life a lot easier. Something else that I touched on in one of my previous videos is I'm looking to move on a few Gilleni. So I do have a couple of Gilleni still left up in this tank here. If you did want to talk about them, just make sure to shoot me a PM or whatever over Facebook or Instagram or whatever, Patreon, wherever you might want to come from. One of them has already moved on, and there's a couple more there that I'm probably going to move on. So yeah, looks like things are in full swing. I think once those guys move on, I think my plan now is to bring the depressor, which are in a bit of a temporary tank up there. I'm trialing out something for one of the sponsors. I think I'm going to bring them down into this tank long term. I'm really trying to see if I can kind of create like a little colony of depressor. So I think that'll be cool to kind of give, if I do get a few bubs out or something like that, maybe like a little bit of a colony of them down here too. I reckon that'll be super, super awesome. The Tanami Gilleni, these guys are doing mint. I love these lizards. There's a little one up there being a Gilleni. Typical funny little buggers. Something else that was kind of brought up is like maybe I just move the frogs on. Now, for me, yes, it'll be easy to move the frogs on. That kind of seems like an easy draw card. It'd be easy to move the pets on, the pet lizards and stuff like that. That'd be an easy draw card. Something for me is, this is a two-pronged sort of answer. Number one, keeping Australian frogs is not as common as what you'd think. It's also a hobby that needs to have light drawn to it. There's not a lot of people out there kind of bringing Australian frogs into the limelight. There will be shortly. I know there's some people working on YouTube channels and such that are like, legitimate frog keepers. I'm a frog keeper, but like I'm talking like mass Australian frog keepers. That being said, diversity. Diversity is something that brings people to my channel. Is occasionally I do have a diverser collection compared to some people that might micro focus in on things like let's just take monitors for example. So that's kind of a handy point to kind of bring people in. I feel like once I kind of moved my geckos on, there might have been a bit of a lag there where it was kind of like, oh, he doesn't have much anymore. YouTube's not the be all and end all. It's not going to dictate what I keep and what I do. The fact of the matter is, I love the frogs. I've loved Australian frogs for a long time. If you've been watching the channel for long enough, like, I've waxed and waned with frogs for a long time, just like geckos. And I know that those little nocturnal night crawlers will be back in my life at some point. It's not if, it's when. They will come back at some point, but just not now. I've taken my little shed down there and I've dedicated that to a bunch of other nocturnal animals, and that's what I plan to keep doing, is to finish that shed and kind of get that done. Australian frogs have been one of those things that need to be out there. Like, they need to be out there. People like Mac, people like, you know, Cindy and Marie, people like Karen Russell, all these people that are actually bringing them to the forefront, putting them into, you know, shows and collections and stuff like that is absolutely fantastic. That's so minute. That's like tip of the iceberg as to who's doing what with frogs. Frogs are just underground in Australia, and that's something that's like, it's an interesting world to me, let's put it that way. But I want to tinker around with my little tree frog shed out there. I reckon that'll be a good fun, and it'll be a, you know, pretty relaxing place to go and have a drink of a night time or something like that. Okay, so where from here? A few things that I want to do. I want to fix up that cage outside, get it ready for the water dragons. That's number one. There is a chance that I might split the Cunninghams out, even if it's just temporary, you know, till I get to a certain size with the water dragons out there. I might split it into like a temporary tank out there, just to kind of find it some space and just let the dragons grow up in peace a little bit. That being said, I might not keep all the dragons. I'm kind of maybe zeroing in on like a pair or even just a male. Like, I'm happy having pet lizards. That's the thing, is not everything needs to be bred. Like, money's good. I've got my little breeding projects. I've got my Kimbos, I've got my Gillans, Tristus when I get them. Greens are on the card hard this year. I'm going hard for greens this year. So, you know, like, there's little things that can bring in a bit of coin. More mouths, more money, more problems. That's the way I kind of look at it. You know, I could probably breed 100 goannas in a year, but that's a lot of little mouths to feed and keep happy and healthy and all the rest of it. So, you know, that's the thing when you're breeding lizards. It's like, man, having a lot of baby lizards, that is hard work. That being said, you know, I want to fix out that pit out there, want to get that up to scratch. I want to go and install this Miss King into the frog enclosures. I've got 3 more enclosures that have been ordered for the frog build, so that should actually fix out that wall and finish that off. After that, I probably after that, I want to focus on Severus. I want to build Severus a new tank just to kind of get him off the roof. He's like super high up in Finnan's room at the moment, and I want to put him on a stack of shelves that are kind of in Finnan's room. But I want to make something that kind of matches the furniture a bit more and just kind of alters the shape of Sevy's enclosure a bit more, so that'll be good. Something else I want to do at some point is actually redo Acorn's enclosure down there. I actually want to do like a coastal habitat exhibit. So something that I noticed when I went down to Herp with Frizy is like where we were finding, or where these shinglebacks are located, is like on the dunes. It was like on the beach, like it was crazy. Yeah, so I really want to do that coastal kind of habitat for Acorn at one point, but that's kind of like down the line when everything's right. I'd rather get a few other things kind of fixed up and ready and in motion, so to speak. You know, the more important stuff. That's like aesthetic, that the other stuff's more practical. So we're going to focus on practical to start with. So yeah, anyway, that's a little bit of a roadmap, a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a update, a little bit of thoughts. Still here, still kicking, still doing things. Lizards are breeding, getting the crickets fired back up, getting the mealworm colonies fired back up. I need to go and pick up some wood roaches off a friend or organise that. So yeah, it's going to be a good time in the future here. There's just going to be a little bit of alterations and stuff to come through, but we'll get there. I know we will. Anyway guys, as per usual, if you do want to support the channel even further, make sure you drop the video a like, a comment, subscribe if you want to stay tuned for more reptile related content, less rambling, more doing. And yeah, if you want to support that a little bit further, feel free to go and join over on Patreon, where you get a few little insiders and such. Not only that, you can go and get some merch over at Teespring as well if you do want to do that. Alrighty guys, enough rambling. Till next time, catch you then. Bye!